Welcome back to another episode of the Wealthy Life podcast. I am joined today by Sandy Davis, an amazing, amazing woman. I recently met Sandy through this other platform, and honestly, we connected so quickly. So I am going to get Sandy to introduce herself, and if you would like to share your story as well, please share with us your story because it's so absolutely powerful.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Tina. I greatly appreciate it. I am Sandy Davis and the founder of Elevate Operations Advisory, as well as the voice behind Elevate Within. That is actually where I share my journey, where I'm journaling, was really just a healing process that I was going through after a traumatic event 2.5 years ago. And it really started with well, let me back up a bit. So I've been in corporate America for over 25 years, working in investment banking and then commercial real estate as a regional ops, national ops. And, you would think that at the time I felt like, oh, I'm living the dream, I'm making money. I moved from New York to California 18 years ago. And that was during like the first recession.
Mm.
Probably for the younger generation, that's probably my 5th or 6th for myself. Just get used to those, but,
Yeah.
so, basically going through, like, navigating life, in corporate America, quote, unquote, "living the dream." Then 2.5 years ago, I had lost both my parents, within 37 days of each other.
Mm,
So having to go back to New York, and that was probably the first time that I actually felt like I was spiraling, like, without any control. So, I had to work. I had to take, a couple of days off to, set up for the funeral, clean my mom's place out. My dad's funeral. My dad's funeral happened to be on my mom's 73rd birthday. My dad went first and then my mom went a couple of days after. So when you lose both parents, there is a part of you that is gone,
mm,
right? Your identity, there was a part of my identity that was gone, where it was like, okay, now what? Now what do I do? Who am I? Um, and then how do I move forward in life? Because I don't have the normal pick up and, call my mom every other day or my dad calling me on Sundays. Not, I guess I'm a daughter, but my parents are gone.
mm,
So then going back to work, you get angry because you realize the world does not stop. You have a demanding job where it's like, hey, so sorry, but need you back here. And to try to put it all together and, still be able to take care of offices of, your staff of a region and still, having the smile like everything is okay. That was probably the hardest thing I ever done. And I started getting angry. So
mm,
people's like, "Oh, that's just a part of grief." And I was like, I don't know what grief is because this is my first impactful death that I have experienced, and that's with the parents. So I don't know what grief feels like. I don't know what grief looks like. I don't know what are the steps.
mm,
All I know is that sometimes I'm lost, sometimes I'm empty, sometimes I'm angry, sometimes I want the world to stop and
mm,
so I can reset. At the same token, I'm, coming up to my 50s. So now you have that premenopause and the hot flashes start and the hormonal imbalance comes into play. And it's like, it ends up becoming the perfect storm, right? So
mm,
now I'm dealing with, some cases of bullying, of a toxic work environment, and, me trying to navigate within that space and not feeling any of it, just not any of it until one day I kind of snapped and just snapped. It was just probably the first time that I yelled at the top of my lungs. I just screamed.
mm,
I had it. I got tired of the same routine and it didn't feel authentic. And um, I went into this deep, dark hole,
Right.
and that hole is, we've had conversations before where we're like, the world is getting hard, or I don't know who I am. I don't know if I'm good enough. And you have good friends, but you don't want to take them down that rabbit hole with you. You don't want to take them down that dark hole with you. And you don't know how to communicate how you're feeling. All you know is that the world is burning
Yeah.
and you want to give up. You don't want to get out of bed. You want to just end it, but it's like, oh, but I have my dog. I have responsibilities. So I decided that, hey, I need to go through this healing process. And going from one company to another, thinking, okay, this will be better. I had
Mm.
to get out of that situation to another situation, still wasn't happy, you know? And then it came a point where it's like, I need to reset. I need to do a hard reset. And the tools that I did was I ended up talking to myself. So every morning I would hear, like, what's the purpose of getting up? What is the purpose of doing anything? No one loves you. You're not needed. What is your real purpose? What have you actually accomplished? I've known what I accomplished before. I know my purpose. I know what I have been through and how I've overcome a lot, from childhood abuse, alcoholic father, also did drugs. My mom was also bipolar, that runs in the family, deep depression. Then, going from there, because I was in a bad situation with my home life, being taken out and being ward of the state, being in the group home, that was like almost 24-hour therapy. And coming out of that, joining the workforce, I didn't go to college. So it's like, hey, I'm just going to jump right in and do what I have to do. So I had to actually go through my past of what I just kind of walked through to be like, what have you overcome?
Mhm.
And really have that reminder, as well as going through the journeys. And I wrote about this on Elevate Within on my Substack. And the overall title was It Still Fits. So it's a 3-part series. And in order to heal, I had to heal the prior versions of myself, right? So starting with that little kid,
Mhm.
that little girl who was abused, didn't really talk, try to stay silent, not move around as much, not to get attention, to going through the group homing and really, trying to understand, why am I being taken away from home? Why is this a different environment? What's wrong with me? I guess I'm bad. I'm not loved. Going through that therapy. And I remember in the high school I was in and the group home that I was in, I remember the vice principal at the time and one of the counselors was like saying, it's okay if you don't really make it. You don't have to strive because of all that you've been through.
Mm.
It's okay, and as far as we're concerned, cases like yours, you're not fit for society anyway.
Mhm.
And I was 16
Right.
and I remember, like, who tells a 16-year-old you're not fit for society because you don't know what love is, because you've had, yes, we acknowledge you have this traumatic past, but you're not going to be successful. So it's okay if
Yeah.
you fail. And we'll just provide you with the tools to live a basic life until you die. That
Yeah.
that was it. And it pissed me off. It pissed me off to the point where that was the first sign of my resilience and me being like, I'm going to show these adults that they're wrong. And
Mhm.
I don't want any other child to ever be told, it's okay. You had a messed up past. It's okay. You're not going to be successful. So I made sure that I graduated high school, had a 3.98. I really applied myself. And after that, I signed myself out. And I wanted to get right to work. I had an opportunity to go to college where being awarded the state that would have paid for, but I just wanted to be free,
Yeah.
right? And just jump into life and like, hey, I'm going to make money and get started. So fast forward, I start with the bartending, waitressing during the day, and then eventually getting into corporate America and how that was triggered was this lady. I think it was Fridays. One of the restaurants I worked in, whatever it is, you had flair. You had to have all this flair, and there was this lady with this beautiful blue suit, and it had this powder blue pinstripe that was on it. And I remember looking at it and I'm like, "Oh, I love your suit. Like, where you get it? Where you get that from?"
Mm,
She was like, "Well, you can't afford it working here." And I was like, "Well, okay. Well, where do you have to work?" She was like, "In corporate America type of thing." And this is
mm,
before Google or anything else like that, and I had to go to the library to figure out how to write a resume. And went to the library, put that together. I had some of my friends pretend to be my managers. And I was living in Harlem at the time. So I didn't have a landline. And at that time, the payphones called back.
mm.
So I had put the payphone on the corner of 141st and 7th,
No.
as that was on my resume. So I started sending it out to temp agencies. At that time, you can get a job easily in a temp agency.
Okay.
So I had temp agencies call. They're calling the payphone. We have like the guys on the block, Sandy, running downstairs. And one of the ladies was like, "Is this a payphone?" I was like, "No, I just got the window open. My apologies," type of thing. So uh, I go in, they have you take a test. And let me just tell you, if for folks today that think that getting a job is or getting testing is extremely hard, let me tell you how it was in the early 90s. This is when the binder clips, I guess, first came out. So they would have them out. And one of the tests was like, open it up so you can use it. That was part of the test
Oh, wow.
type of thing, spelling, filing. And eventually, I got a temp assignment working for Christmas light and decorations distribution center. It's a Japanese company. And he taught me everything there was to learn about business, how the difference between the US and Japan type of
Mm,
thing. So eventually got into investment banking. At this time, I am just loving life. I'm learning new things. Nothing bothered me. I was like, hey, I'm in corporate America. I'm going to eventually get that suit.
mhm.
So this is in my
Still got the
20s.
suit in mind.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Because at that time, that was my only purpose. Right. And when you're young, it's like, hey, I just want to get to down the block.
Yeah,
We
totally.
had big ambitions and goals, but we took it baby steps and we celebrated. So in my 20s, I celebrated. I got into investment banking and, navigating through that. Just happy go lucky. You go to work, you got happy hour, you go home, repeat. The
Yeah.
weekends, so everything was just to me easier. And I was free. I was fearless.
Yeah.
I started my first company with Sassy's Entertainment and did not know anything about,
Mhm.
artist development. I didn't know anything about, getting interviews booked and at, High 97 or BLS,
Mm,
and managed to get through that just, again, fearless, just happy go lucky.
mhm.
Then the bubble bursted during that recession in 2008. And I remembered that at that time, California was about to file for bankruptcy.
Oh, wow.
The Terminator was the governor. And and a lot of people were getting laid off in New York. Like I remember Lehman Brothers, they shut down when I was in Oahu. And I remember my
Mm,
friends calling like, They were, 1 avenue over. So I was like, man, if I'm not going to be able to get a job in New York, let me at least move somewhere where the beaches don't close.
Yeah.
There's fruit trees out here. They have showers at the beaches. I was like,
Yeah.
this is a great place if you're going to end up being homeless, move to
Totally.
California as opposed to New York where I was still shoveling snow. And the
100%.
second thing, no disrespect to people in California, but being a New Yorker, there were just sharks. And, when
Yeah.
you have to compete with other sharks, I decided, like, let me just move over to a lake.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
And I remember I got laid off on a Wednesday, and you wanted to get laid off early because the earlier you got laid off, the bigger the package you received, and this was during the bailout.
Okay.
Um, so I eventually got laid off on a Friday. Craigslist was big at that time,
Mm,
and online news media was just launching. So New York Times had their digital version. And I
okay.
remember taking a test. It was like match your personality with where you should live. And I took the test, and Florida came up, Colorado, and oddly, like Southern California. So it was just
Mm,
regional. Florida, I was like, I'm not going there. I'll probably end up having too many babies because it was just beautiful men out there.
yeah.
Colorado, I was like, I don't think there's any black people out there.
Yeah.
So I was like, so let's check out SoCal. So I
Mm,
put a post on Craigslist. First was like looking for roommate situations. I had 2 pit bulls, and I had a SUV, and I was like, and I need a garage, needs to be in a nice a nice
yeah.
area. So, the second one was I need someone to show me around Southern California. So San Diego, Orange County, LA, what's the difference? Because I've never been.
Yeah.
Got bites. Got bites. So I ended up booking a ticket on a Friday,
Oh.
flew out to California, San Diego airport, and I had hired this guy at the time to, kind of show me around.
Mm,
And I had like 4 or 5 places where I had a visit roommate situation.
mhm.
Found one in San Diego, Kensington, as a matter of fact. And I remember the guy was like, "Hey, have you ever watched the sunset?" And I was like, "Yeah, behind the building, in New York City, like beautiful."
Yeah.
I did when I was in Oahu, but as New Yorkers, it was like, yeah, we watch it go behind the building,
Yeah.
maybe if we're on vacation type of thing. So he takes me to the beach. I think it was like Oceanside or something like that. And I was watching other people watch the sunset and how beautiful and the colors of the sky. And I was like, yeah, this is where I want to live. Like, this is
Yeah.
what I want to do. So I flew back early Monday morning. I remember um, calling my friends and letting them know, like, hey, guess who's moving to Cali in 2 weeks? They're just like, what?
That was less than 1 week from when you got laid off, right?
It's a couple of days
Yeah, because you got laid off on Wednesday
on a
and you flew it
Wednesday.
out on Friday.
Yep.
That's crazy. That's crazy
Yes.
fast.
Yes. And so my friends was like, "Oh, she's losing it."
But that's the freedom I mean, that's what I feel like, the freedom you have when you're in your 20s. You're just so,
Yes.
like you said, fearless. You just go for it.
Yes. Yes. So, um, what I did was I threw a party in like a couple of rooms in my house at a time. And the theme was I wanted to leave a piece of me behind to my
Mm,
friends. Um, so as I'm having these gatherings, like whatever you see that's out, take it. Like
yeah.
if the stereo is on and we, jamming, playing music, and you want that stereo, it's okay to yank it and just be like, all right, well, see y'all later. And just go. And the conversations I were having with my friends, they were just like, you never even been to Cali. And I was like, I
Mm,
know, but it's nice there. And I'm okay. I'm going to be fine. I remember the the absolute faith with no evidence that I was gonna
mm,
be fine. I didn't have a job, didn't know anybody out there.
yeah.
And I remember like, a couple of my best friends, even my cousin, they was like, if anything happens to you, it's gonna take us like 5 or 6 hours just to get out there.
Yeah.
And it was like, no, I'll be fine.
Mm.
And 2 weeks, it literally took me 2 weeks. I ended up moving to California. And that was probably in February. And I think a couple of days later, I'm sitting on the terrace, I'm drinking coffee, and it hit me like, what the hell am I doing out here? I don't know anybody. What? What did I just do? So, um, at the same token, being in California as a New Yorker, and I didn't realize I had a New York accent.
Mm.
So I was like, oh, say water or
Yeah.
say this, say that. And I never was asked that before. Right.
Mm.
And it's just like, yeah, you sound like, you're from New York, like, the gritty streets. And it was like,
Y
it wasn't really gritty, but, we made the most of it. Then eventually I got into commercial real estate as an ops
mm.
manager. So different than investment banking. And I'm trying to figure who I am in California. It was the first time I was trying to figure out who I was. And it's
Mm.
like, hey, it's a different coast. I can't do Sassy's entertainment out here. The music industry is different. I'm different. I'm an outlier. And I ended up putting like my authentic self in the back of the closet.
Right.
And so, this is where it's probably my 30s and 40s. And I think this is what happens to maybe, a lot of women, I'm sure men as well, where we end up putting on different versions of ourselves. We end up putting on versions that are acceptable in rooms. We're changing, or I had to change how I spoke. I remember there was one gentleman in particular. He was like, you need a dialect coach. You need to sound more like, somebody from California because New Yorkers are too aggressive. You sound really
Yeah.
aggressive when you speak. And I didn't push back. It
Mm.
was like, okay, so I need to be softer or
Right.
fluffy. And so now I'm changing my voice.
Yeah.
Now I'm changing how I speak. I'm
Mhm.
changing how I physically look. Um, and now I'm the safe person to be around. I'm
Yeah.
the warm and loving. I'm the one that'll be quiet while you take your day out on me type of thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't like it. And my best friend back home, I remember I was crying her one day and
Mm.
she was like, well, what happened to that Sassy's, Sandy Sassy's? And I authentically was like, I left her in New York.
Oh.
Or maybe I missed her. Maybe I didn't get her a baggage claim. I don't know. But I don't know who I am. And I don't like it. I don't want to move back. I need to try to make the best of it here.
Yeah.
And I did. Kept trying to push, lonely at times, or even if you're around a lot of people, you're still lonely.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like I can share my story. I didn't feel like I can tell them like who I was back in the days. Everybody already had their assumptions about me. So now I'm just trying to navigate through Sandy, living in California, trying to make it, constantly going through battles and trying to find happiness,
Yeah.
and just what am I doing here on this planet? What is my purpose? So eventually, like, I end up buying a house, being more successful in life, but personal connections or relationships I stayed away from. And why? Because didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I wanted. Didn't know if I could be accepted. Didn't know if there was anything wrong with me, or it's like, hey, I'm already kind of damaged
Mhm.
goods. Like, here's my past, here's what I went through. And then, that's in the 20s, the 30s and 40s, then going through again, like what I went through with work, with the toxic environment, the burnout, losing the parents, then, about to hit 50. And it's just like, that's when I stopped. It was
Mm,
like, okay, there's nothing working. I'm not happy. I don't know my purpose. Um, and so I say that this part of me is the third leg
yeah,
of my life, right? So
yeah,
you have the 20s where you are fearless, you're just accepting, you're navigating life, but it's not as hard. It's more of excitement. It's an adventure.
mhm,
Your 30s and 40s is when you start feeling like you have to shrink yourselves in rooms that you actually already outgrew or don't belong in. You change who you are to be accepted, to say, like, hey, I'm a grown woman, accept me, see me, validate me. Um, and that's where, if you don't have the tools, you're going to lose yourself.
yeah,
And that's what I did. You're going to go through the depression. You're going to hear the voices of the naysayers. And then at 50, it's not like everything was perfect. It was just, hey, I need to stop. It was the perfect storm. It was like, I need a reset and I am in control of my life.
yeah,
And I've been through a lot. And so going through those phases and saying, okay, let me heal that little girl. Let me let her know, yes, you are a beautiful little girl. You're going to have so much strength and you're going to give back to others. And your story is going to resonate with people and you're going to help people and you're going to teach them how to get out of the depression. You're going to teach women how to be able to actually see themselves, see them for who they really are. And you're going to be, you're going to be able to help them find their voice and
mhm,
their purpose. So, the healing of that, then that, the 20s I think was fine. It was like, hey, you just needed to just be more refined because you were just aggressive and just out and just getting it, which is great. We just need to kind of, refine it some and go through life. And the 30s and 40s, that was a real battle for me of
mm,
like, hey, you were enough and you basically left yourself at baggage claim in
yeah,
the San Diego airport. So you were trying to be somebody you were not in order to be accepted. And why
mm,
didn't you accept yourself? And what is it that you had to learn to heal to be more resilient?
mhm,
So I ended up doing that work for a year, having that perfect storm of, okay, let's kind of go through the grief. Even it comes in waves now. Um, I know who I am, realizing who I am, and envisioning what I want in my future. And what I want in my future is to really pay it forward for those that have helped me in my 20s and even 30s. That means I have to start my own business, right? And I have more years behind me working than I do in front of me.
mm,
So, with that said, let me be intentional and let me find that faith again that I
yeah,
had when I moved to Cali. The first time when I was in my 20s and was just fearless, I wanted to bring her back. So, how I framed it in my writing is think of it as a wardrobe. You look in your closet, you have all of these clothes, shoes, just everything. And in the back, there's an outfit, plastic bag from the cleaners, and I pull it out and I realize, oh, this was me in the 20s. This was Sassy's. And the most gratifying feeling, I don't know if there's a word for it, but there's just an emotion. When you put something on that you have not put on in 20, 30 years and it still fits,
yeah,
it still fits. When you just like, oh, girl, look at me. This is flattering. This fits wonderful. Like, I still got it.
mm,
That's the excitement. I still got it.
yeah,
That was the epiphany for me. I still got it.
mhm,
And once I felt, okay, now I have learned a lot of lessons in life. I feel strength again. Now I have that fearless version of me and I have my purpose. Yes, this is exactly what I want to do. I don't need to make the 200K a year anymore. It's like, hey, I just need enough to pay my bills, have some for saving. I want to be able to travel around the world. But what I really, really want to do also is meet women, meet people, and help provide the tools that I had to figure out on my own to help them find themselves, find their voice, go back to the authentic version. And if you don't know what your authentic version is, then okay, let's figure out who you are. What do you want in life? What is your purpose? Um, and I'll leave it by saying, like, what I used to tell my staff members, or women that I would mentor, I would always ask the question, what is the most impactful thing on a
Mm.
tombstone? So think of a graveyard. In your opinion, what's the most impactful thing on a tombstone?
I think you and I spoke about this, so I already know
Oh,
the
yeah, so you know
answer.
the answer, right?
I'm not gonna cheat and pretend we never had this conversation. So you go
so,
ahead.
so the most impactful thing is the tiny dash between the date that you were born and the date that you cross over. And basically, that dash is your life. That dash represents everything that you have done. So I tell people, you won't know the true impact until you cross over, because every day you wake up is every day you can make a difference, is every day you can change someone's life. It's every day you can do something that you never thought you would be able to do. I didn't know I was going to be able to start over at 51.
Mhm.
So make that dash count. And there's that saying where it's like, you die twice. You die physically in the physical form. And then the second time is when people stop saying your name or talking about what you have done. And so I want that dash to count. That's my purpose. It was like, hey, let me make the most out of this dash that probably costs $100 to
Yeah.
etch onto that tombstone.
Your life has been more than a movie. I was gonna say maybe a TV show, with, a few, seasons in there. It's not even a one-season TV show. It's, 4 or 5 seasons at this point, and there's
Yeah.
go ahead, sorry.
No, no, no. There is, and I had a, I don't know if I spoke to you about it, somebody else. I was like, that's it. Our lives are basically a series. So think of like you're binge watching on Netflix or whatever. That's another tool that people can use, men and women are going through it. So you have your season one, you're going through it, you're navigating life. Season two, folks don't want to see you're still going through the same shit you were going through in season one,
Yeah.
right? They don't want to repeat.
Yeah.
You don't want to repeat. So sometimes if you cannot see from within and if you only can see from the outside, so people who are big on social media, people who are big on watching these series, binge watching, then apply that to your life, right?
Mhm.
So it's like, okay, a new season. I don't care what anniversary. I don't care if you start in January or on your birthday. But what does that look like? And so it's like, okay, what did I go through last year? And what do I want to overcome this year? What's going to make
Yeah.
this season great, where folks are going to stay with me on this ride and stay tuned for season 3,
Yeah.
right? I want to get renewed.
Yes.
Say that I want to get renewed, meaning, hey, that is purpose for me. Hey, let's figure this out. So it's funny that you mentioned that because that's how I would apply on my life. So if you're dealing with somebody that was toxic in season 1, season 2, by season 3, Like, you still dealing with this person? Like, and you end up like, yeah, that's it. It's just like, what the hell? Like, we have
Yeah.
to make a change.
Yeah.
Use that as a tool
Yeah.
to make a change. And like, who are going to be the new characters in your life? Is there going to be an adventure? What are you going to solve for in your life?
Mhm.
What season 8 or 9 gonna look like?
Yeah.
Right? And just be like, do you want season 8 or 9? Absolutely.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think, people don't think of it as, and this is something that, I actually mentioned in my podcast episode yesterday, which I released for my birthday yesterday. Is one of the things that I really start noticing in the recent years is everybody see life as a very linear trajectory. They want things to continue to go upwards. And just in relation to, what you said in terms of seasons, TV shows, movies, whatever it is not, we come to a resolution right away. There is that buildup. There is the problem presentation. We go through these character development and we go through the climax of the issue. And then slowly we get to that resolution. And even to the resolution, there's ups and downs. And I think what people have a really hard time with these days is they want to get to the resolution right away. They want to have something resolved yesterday
Hmm.
because we're in such a instant gratification, um what's the right word, rewarded society where everything is so quick, everything's instant. You want dopamine was here waiting for you this whole time. So I think in that sense, what you said is every season there is hardship, and that's what makes a story great. And that's what makes resilience. Resilience is not the hardship, is you overcoming that hardship. That's where we build the resilience. That's where we build the strength and everything that makes us who we are as a human, not a soft, thing that has not gone through anything and just having dopamine fed to us this whole time.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And with the rapid satisfaction, right? And I know that's really more for the younger generations that are used to that. So I'll say this. So life goes up and it goes down and it goes backwards, forwards. It's life,
Mhm.
right? So if you're constantly going up and if you want these quick results, you're gonna miss life.
Yeah.
You're gonna miss whatever, like the beauty in it, finding the beauty and the ugliness, being able to take time and just smell the roses. I know that sounds cliche, um, but that is what I had to learn, which is when I moved from New York to California. It was like, hey, just stop and sit and recognize where you are
Yeah.
and where you came from to where you are today. And I think by going so fast or that instant gratification, I'll push back and I was like, if you're having sex, you want that instant gratification? Just like a couple of seconds and done. Because in my generation, it was like, hell no, we need to take our time on
Yeah,
that, right? If
definitely.
you are, especially influencers like, oh, I want to be able to enjoy this meal, eat this meal, and taste it.
Yeah.
Well, instant is just like,
Done.
did
Yeah.
did you enjoy it? What did you
Yeah.
enjoy? So you, one of the tools in getting through life is, hey, sometimes you just have to sit in it. Stop, take,
100%.
look around. Stop going so fast. You're going to miss out. It's kind of like, I want to go see Europe, but you're going to get on a bullet train where
Yeah.
you can't really see anything. Everything
Yeah.
is just speeding past. So you have to equate it like that. Or do I want like, a slower train where it makes stops and you're seeing things that you have never seen before.
Mhm.
That's what life is.
Yeah.
We are experiencing things that we have not experienced before. There might be some repetitiveness, but look for the new things, right?
Yeah.
And enjoy it, because if you're going to go through life so fast, if you're trying to accelerate above, my question to you is, where are you going? If you're going so fast and if you're going up, where are you going?
Yeah. I always say to people and my clients too is, you know, if you're so eager to get there, well, it's death that's waiting for you. There is nowhere else. That's pretty much the end of this life, at least this physical body, right? Are we rushing to death? No, we're all avoiding death. So then
Hmm.
where are we rushing to? Exactly what you're saying.
Right. And having to learn it. So a lot of times I feel, we're not taught these things. We're
Yeah.
having to figure it out, right? My parents, they're boomers. First of all, you don't talk about what happens in your household. You don't talk about your feelings. You get up, you put a smile on your face, you go to work. Not this
Mhm.
entrepreneurship. No, don't you have your own company, you're gonna work in corporate America or for the government or the city. That's it. You pay your bills, pay your taxes, get married, have kids, and die.
Yeah.
That's their version, right?
Mhm.
So to a Gen Z, be like, hey, they did it the fast life. It's just a simple, mundane, everyday, right?
Yeah.
I'm Gen X. We were a bit more feral. So we were we
Feral's the
we
right
just had
word.
we basically just had to go out here and figure it out, right?
Mhm.
Um, and I've seen a lot and I've experienced a lot, and to be able to then see like the millennials and the Gen Zs come in and have that, where now it's like they're naming traumas. Oh,
Yeah.
that's a trauma response, or I don't like that, or we shouldn't say that, we shouldn't do that. Yes, that's healthy. Yes, that's healthy. At the same token, you have to remember it was a time
Yeah.
where there was not a name for it. There's a time where you're going, whatever you're going through currently probably doesn't have a name for it. And it's going to be like, hey, you lost your human connection. We're on social media. You have the imposter syndrome. Um, you For all generations, we still just all want to be seen.
Yeah. For sure.
We all want to be loved. We all want to be heard.
Mhm.
You can't race through that.
Yeah.
And you have to, and it sounds harsh, but you have to earn it.
Yeah.
You have to earn it. So if you're gonna say like, "Hey, I deserve love," great. How you gonna go about getting it? Well, no,
Mhm.
I just deserve it. From who?
Mhm.
What does that look like? Oh, I don't know what it looks like. Okay, let's figure out what it looks like, because you actually are loved. Everybody, and I want everybody to know this. You are loved. It may not be in the version that you pictured it. It may not be from that one or two people that you want to actually love you in the way that you envision it. But I can tell you, you are still loved. You're still loved. You are still seen. And you have to hold space for that. You can't pick and choose. No, I know they love me, but I want this person to love me. No, no, I have this amount of money, but I want this abundance of money. Okay. But you have money, right? I want to be able to travel. Go.
Mhm.
Just whatever it is that you want to do, stop envisioning like it has to be perfect in your lens. Stop saying you're not loved. Stop saying you don't matter. Stop saying like, oh, woe is me. What is the purpose of me getting up? I'm not doing anything. I'm not helping anyone. No one is helping me. But you never know. You never know.
Mhm. I mean, I think our society honestly is breeding and reinforcing almost self-victimhood, right? And it's, what you said going back to, and I actually wrote it down to bring it up, is when you were going through the system when you were younger, and they said it's okay to, do the bare minimal because of what you've been through, and essentially giving you a hall pass of it's okay if you end up on the street because of what you went through, and you have an excuse now to do absolutely nothing for yourself.
Mhm.
And unless you have the strength and the resilience and say, you know what, I'm going to live the best life I could possibly live despite my circumstances, that takes a lot of strength and courage. And the fact that a social worker or a caseworker, whoever it was, said that to a 16-year-old, essentially, if you didn't really have the capacity and even the not even intelligence, but just that inner strength to say, this is not the end for me. This is just the beginning. This is what's going to build my character. Then that's probably likely a death sentence for a lot of people. And I would assume, a lot of people who have ended up on the street have been told some version of that. It's like, it's okay you're like this because, your parents have gone through this, where you've gone through this. And 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 I feel like so many people in all forms, in all social status, people seek this sense of self-victimhood. It's, this happened to me, so I'm like this. This happened to me, so I can do, I can feel entitled. So I can pick and choose what I want and what I don't want. And and I think as a society, we we should, talk a little bit more about just one, getting ourselves out of self-victimhood. And the second is, even if someone tells you you're not enough, or you're not loved, like you said, or you're not this, you're not that, it's okay to be like, you know what? Fuck all of you. I'm going to go do whatever I want to do because my heart feels like whatever you said is not aligned with me. Whereas, we talked about this before we started recording, was women have this tendency to listen to the external voice rather than the internal voice.
Yep.
And most likely that internal voice is saying, I'm not okay sitting on the street corner begging for money. I feel like I can do so much more for this world and for myself and for my family, but everyone else has told me it's okay for me to sit here and beg for money. So I'm just going to sit here and beg for money. So again, it takes obviously character strength and all of that. It is really freaking hard work. At the end of the day, we build our own lives and we make choices every single second of our lives to essentially determine, what season 8 and 9 look
Yeah.
like you said, right?
We have to learn how to fight for ourselves.
Yeah,
I
100%.
think that that is the main thing. You know, and I've haven't never mentioned this. So being coming out of the group home and years later, having a conversation over the years with my oldest sister, cousins, and realized they was like, "Oh, Sam, we didn't know what you were going through,"
Mm,
and with the abuse and everything. And I just remember being in shock, like, "Wait, what?
mm,
Like, you had no? Are you kidding me? Like, there was this evidence, that evidence." Be like, "No, like, we got the." My mom would send, family photos of us on Christmas where we looked like the perfect family. My mom
right.
loved wearing her fur coats and stuff like that. My dad in a suit. He always wore suits.
Mm,
Me just sitting there smiling. Everybody just assumed I was privileged. I grew up privileged. And I was like, no, it was hell at the time. My mom
right.
is bipolar, dealing with depression. My dad, on and off drugs, but they both worked. So they were functionally alcoholics, depression. You would just never know because they worked. And um so it baffled me, like, so you didn't even see me, or you saw me how you wanted to see me, which is like, oh, privileged
Yeah.
kid or whatever, this and that. The second thing is, and I understand it now. My mom was embarrassed when I was taken away from her, right?
Mm,
And to hear when I came out of the group home, like, yeah, your mama said you was a hoe and you was on drugs and that's why you got taken away. And for a few
mm,
years, I didn't go back to the old neighborhood. Um, Even though it was like, yo, that wasn't true. But I
yeah,
didn't want to sit there and tell people, be like, nah, that's not true. Because it's like, what mother would lie about that?
totally.
right?
Exactly.
So it was a matter of like, well, fuck it. If y'all really believe that and won't ask me,
Mhm.
then I'm gonna keep moving forward. So it was the fight in me. It was not only the resilience of how dare you tell me that it's okay to fail. How
Yeah.
dare you tell me like, you wasn't loved, so you're not gonna be in society. Be like, I'm sure there's other people that probably didn't feel loved that's out here in these streets right now making a
Yeah.
killing,
Mhm.
right? Or
Exactly.
successful, or they're comedians.
Yeah.
One of my favorite comedians was Richard Pryor, and he had a hard life, and he
Mm.
spoke about it. And, he found that humor in the pain. I would find the humor in the pain. Um, but years later, and having those conversations where family members or friends, from, junior high, high school was like, yeah, we had no idea.
Mm.
And what I had was, why didn't you just ask?
Right.
Why don't you just ask me instead of just assuming? Or if I disappear for a few years or I'm in and out of your life or something looks different, why not ask? Hey,
Right.
what's going on with you? It's the silence of, we're just going to believe what we're told.
Yeah.
And that has carried from generation to generation. We're still not asking the right questions, or we're not asking, we're automatically assuming.
Yeah.
Even on social media, we're just assuming, oh, that person is like this person like that. No, stop and ask questions. And for the individuals like myself going through that,
Mhm.
because no one was asking, I was like, well, I'm gonna prove it to them. And I'm gonna prove it to myself, but I'm gonna prove it to others. So now at 50, looking back, it was like, huh, I I did in a way, because people in California who know me, or know of me, they would never imagine what
Right.
I've been through. There are some that assume, oh, yeah, I just assumed you grew up with your mom and dad in a household. I never actually spoke my truth to them.
Right.
Or it's like, yeah, I'm sure you graduate college, master's, just everything, just assumptions, saying you're well put together.
Mhm.
I'm sure you had a pretty good life in New York City, glamorous,
Yeah.
or living in Yonkers, like, wow, this is just very glamorous life. And look how, like, your parents should be proud of you. Be like, yeah, my parents are proud of me. They were proud of me. This was not an easy journey. And I did not want to share that before, right?
Right.
Then you realize all of us don't want to share that version. So what I do is, with Elevate Within, where talking, especially having conversation with my best friend and others, I help you resolve the story that you edited out.
Yeah.
That was probably a learning lesson, a life lesson for you to, like, hey, let's face it together. So when people are talking about their journey, they're talking about, yeah, I kind of went through this, but this is, so it's
Yeah.
like I'll touch a little bit on the little bit, but go up. Even as a victim, even if you're gonna play victim, you're still gonna be like, oh, I went through this, but
Yeah.
look at me now, because everybody's like, but look at me, look at me, look at me. And it's like, but did you resolve when you were down here?
Yeah. Exactly.
I was a victim then. Okay, let's go through that. Let's talk about it,
Mhm.
because there's somebody that's probably going through something similar and they don't know how to get out of it.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't do that. It's embarrassing. Or
Yeah.
people gonna judge me like, if you were going through it, do you think people would judge you? People gonna judge you anyway.
Mhm.
You went through it. That is your story. You have to come on out on the other side of it. And so my purpose in life is sharing that ugly truth, laughing through the pain, finding the humor in the pain. And trust me, and I laugh a lot. Sometimes I'm laughing and crying, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm laughing or crying,
Yeah.
or at the same time,
Yeah.
type of thing. It's a release. But instead of trying to edit your life, the bad parts, let's figure out why you're trying to edit. And once you can learn from it, that's how you become more resilient. That's how you're aware to recognize when the triggers are coming in, that negative voice in your head that's telling you like you don't matter, you're not
Yeah.
good enough. What are you doing? You shouldn't be doing this. And me saying like, "Hey, talk back to it." That is the scared version of yourself. That is that little girl or that little boy that's inside of you that's like, we shouldn't be doing any of this. And what are you doing? They're lashing out, they're angry. And
Mhm.
a lot of us ignore it. We don't know that's a younger version of ourselves, whether it's little kid, 20s or 30s, whatever it is. It's the younger, fearful
Yeah.
version. Sit down and talk to them. Because if you don't, they're always going to be in your head and they're always going to be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Let them know what you're doing and let them know, hey, it's okay. You don't have to be afraid anymore. We're no longer in that space. Why do you feel like you're having anxiety?
Yeah.
Why do you feel like you're not loving yourself? Why do you feel like you're not purposeful? And if
Yeah.
it's silent, then it's just a echo of a demon in your head of that fearful person. Just be like, there's nothing to be afraid of. You're okay. Look where you are today. And that's when I said, stop and just take in the moment.
Mhm. Yeah. A huge part of, at least the work I do with nervous system is the inner child and identifying different voices. And most of those voices are not ours. It's like you said, is the voice, the continuation of voices from other people that have had influences in our lives, right? And for me, a lot of it is from my mom, the fearful voices. And obviously, all came from a very loving, kind place, but it was all rooted in fear. And the more you notice it, the more you will notice it. And with that inner child work, it's so important because it's the residual trauma, stress that's been sitting in the cells, and unless we identify it and allow it to release, allow it to resolve, it will continue to sit either in physical form in our cells, in our body, or it will continue to sit as a voice in our heads saying, the danger has not passed. And for the human body, it doesn't know the difference between we're getting chased by a lion behind us versus,
Yep.
whatever trauma that was in the past that we dealt with and we feel like we finished dealing with. In a lot of forms and ways, and for a lot of people, we continue to carry that on our backs without even knowing in our physical body and as well as in our minds. So absolutely is huge when it comes to that voice and really communicating with that voice and really seeing what's going on and I think more and more people are receptive to that these days versus before. Like, I don't have any other voices in my head. They think I'm thinking they have schizophrenia or something, but no, we all have different voices in our heads. And I think most people are able to actually identify, a few different voices, whereas others they can actually tune in fairly quickly to differentiate, okay, this is actually the voice from my mother. This is the voice from,
Hmm.
whoever, my teacher, and then this is my inner child who's really scared. So absolutely, those voices are definitely one of the ways for us to resolve some of the residual trauma, undealt with experiences that we were dealing with. And I just want to be really mindful with time. I know you talk to people a lot about imposter syndrome, and many, many people deal with imposter syndrome. So, in terms of, I guess, what you went through from a personal experience and perspective, how did you come to recognize that imposter syndrome, and how did you, I guess, I don't know if you're still working with imposter syndrome, but if if it's resolved, how did you come to that resolution of it?
Um, Learning who I was, learning who I have become and becoming. It's all those layers. So being of mixed race, my father's black, mom's Puerto Rican and Italian, there was no real identity. I wasn't considered black or white
Mm,
at that time. So for me, it already started early where it's like, what am I type of thing, right? And again, it goes back to learning who you are. So the imposter syndrome, again, is when I really recognized when I moved to California
mm,
and realizing, like, oh, I can't speak how I normally speak because I'm at a dinner in Mission Viejo or in Newport Beach and they don't sound like me. So I have to change my voice.
mm,
Um, I'm going to Santa Barbara and they don't dress how I would normally like to dress, to be comfortable and, they're not laughing. We are already aware
mm,
because we are adapting to our current environment. And if for those that are not aware of their surroundings, then they're on their phones and they're
yeah,
going through that kind of reality, right? Or that's the reality I want.
mm,
And you see it. I mean, when I started seeing that, people were taking photos of it was a half of a plane to make it look like they were in first class or jet setting. It was like, yeah, we got a problem. W- We, we
yeah,
have a problem. So imposter syndrome becomes when you shrink yourself, when you put on that disguise just to be in that room or in that space.
mm,
You know it. There's no, and anybody who tells you like, "Nah, I didn't know," be like, You did. You definitely did because you saw where you were gonna go, and you was like, all right, I gotta put on this kind of personality, match with this voice, and that's the imposter syndrome. And I've gotten over it. Again, going through that healing is just like, actually, I like me. I
mm,
love the authentic me. And two, once you say that out loud and you believe that, then when people tell you like, I don't like you or I don't love you, be like, shit, I like me. I love me. Like,
yeah,
I don't need you to
yeah,
validate me being lovable because I like me and I love me. So the tools I would say to get over the imposter syndrome, one is you already know it, right? Don't get too far in the weeds where now you can't find yourself, right? It's kind of going too deep in the woods. That happens. Then you have to stop and get your bearings, right?
mm,
It's no different. Like, hey, I'm really in the thick of the woods. I have to figure out where I'm at. Let me stop. Let me figure out what direction. Where am I? Let me retrace my steps
mhm,
and then go the path that I need to go. Know who you are. That is the most important thing, the most important job besides giving back and living life and trying to live and fulfill life. Know who you are, learn who you are, take those steps to do that, or else life is always going to be really hard.
yeah. Yeah. And know who you are is one of the hardest thing for people to do, unfortunately, because we're wearing layers and layers and layers of coping mechanism that help us survive different circumstances and situations through decades of our lives, right? And it's a
Ancestral.
painful. Yes, exactly. It's
It's
painful.
ancestral. Yeah. And so
Yeah.
that's where you have to do the work to peel back all those layers, to take them off little by little. But like, why am I wearing this? Whose is it?
Yeah.
Is it mine? Is it my mother's? Is it my grandmother's? Is
Yeah.
it my neighbor's? That's the work I believe that is so important that we have to do
Yeah.
in order to
Absolutely.
live a fulfilled full life.
Yeah. And there is no shortcut to that. There is no let me just race to the end and
No, I wished.
I honestly feel like, knowing who we are really is one of those things that I feel like is a lifelong process. We continue to learn who we are. And there's so many times that I felt like, oh, I peeled back enough layers. I've gotten to the core and something else happens. Oh, I just learned a little bit more. And there were some other coping mechanisms that I didn't even know. And I recall some memories from childhood that's associated with a coping mechanism. So is consistently happening and continuously obviously in a painful, but also a very beautiful way that you learn more and more about yourself. And that takes, what you said, presence, takes intention, takes consistency to continue to have that curiosity of there's more of myself that I haven't met yet. And I am so excited to continue to meet her or him down the road.
Yes. And you're going to go through that until you cross over,
Yeah.
right? So you can't even say if someone is in their 30s or 40s, hey, I got it figured out. Really? So what are you doing at 80?
Yeah.
Huh? That's another lifetime.
Yeah.
If you're 40 now, think of everything that you've been through. Now I'm going to push back and tell people, okay, so if you haven't figured out now, who are you at 80 years old?
Mhm.
And it's like, oh, I didn't think of it because you're still in the now. So work on the now. You're always going to evolve.
Yeah.
You're always going to change because that's growth. That is life. There is no such thing like, oh, finally I figured everything out. We're good. If you're good, then the show ends. Then
Yeah.
it's the grand finale, right?
Yeah.
It's the episode finale, and it's like that means you dying tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
So it's okay to don't be down on yourself if you feel like, oh man, I thought I had it all figured out, but then something else happened. Be like, yeah, no, that's life.
Yeah.
That's life. Keep
Yeah.
going. You're going to evolve. You're going to change. Then you're going to change some more and celebrate it.
100%. 100%. That's a whole different topic with celebration and recognition of the self. But um, I do have one last question for you before we go. What are your three non negotiables when it comes to your own happiness, your quality of life, staying sane in s- somewhat of a crazy world these days, and
Yeah.
just your performance and health overall?
Non-negotiables. I don't allow anyone to tell me who I am in a negative light,
Mm,
right? So you want to take your day out on me, you want to call me out of your names, that's no. And then that's a different version that you'll get. Be like, wish you luck on being able to handle that. um, and that goes for myself,
mm,
not being abusive to myself. So that's one. Two is I don't dwell on my mistakes. And I don't dwell on the past anymore
yeah,
because the past no longer exists. Period. So that's my thing is like, I don't live back there because it doesn't exist.
right.
I'm here right now. And the third thing, non negotiable, is I will never, ever tell myself I'm not worthy or deserving of love. Never.
I I think everyone needs to get that carved in the wall or some part of thing in their house where they can see
Little sticky note or whatever. Yeah.
all the wherever they go, that sticky note needs to be, those meta glasses. I feel like it needs to just in the glass and just show it to them all the time because it slips out sometimes. I find with people, they'll be like, "Oh, why am I so stupid?" And I'm always the one who's like, "Don't talk to yourself like that."
Yeah, because if you do, your brain doesn't know that you're lying.
Exactly. Exactly. Or it's just a form of almost expression for people to just blurt it out without even processing what they're saying. And a lot of times people don't mean it's, you know, in a way they do mean it, but yeah, absolutely. There's,
It's
you
that
are
self
enough.
abuse. Yeah. And
100%.
so you have to tell yourself, like, I don't ever tell yourself you're not lovable or
Yeah.
not deserving of love. That
Yeah.
is a huge myth for any human being.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Where can people find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Sandy Davis. I also have for my website, elevateopsadvisory.com, for any small to mid-sized founders looking for operational scaling up for their business. You can also find my work on Substack at Elevate Within. And yeah, that's all I have for right now. Yeah.
Awesome. Amazing. I will put everything in the show notes so people can find you. Thank you so much for your time, for sharing your story and your wisdom. I appreciate you so much, Sandy. Thank you for everything you do for yourself and also for the world.
Thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate you as well.